My beanie's on.
Hello.
We got you.
Hi.
How you going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I can almost hear you from
almost. we needed like a megaphone.
How good. So the funny thing there is that you're literally across the road from me.
I am. We could have done this sitting next to each other, but we'll keep it there.
I know. And the funny part about that is even how that came to be. So for everyone else, so you and I actually went to the same school together.
We did, yeah.
We weren't friends. We were never friends, but we sort of went to the same school. Might have crossed paths once or twice. What would that have been, like 20 something years ago?
Really? Yeah, probably. Yeah, 10. Yep. Yeah. 10. Yep.
And then you came across Momentum, and you've been helping us and the boys with Momentum out. And
you're doing amazing things with Momentum. I absolutely cannot praise you all enough. I'm so excited that it's amazing.
I think
I don't have my AirPods. If you need me to grab them, I don't have my AirPods on me.
No, I think my headphones are causing trouble.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, good. I'll let the boys let us know if there's still any problems with my sound. Yeah, right. And obviously, next you're out in near Byron. I'm over in Sydney. Blake's in here in Adelaide. Dylan's in Melbourne. And next minute, I'm back to my dad, and you're living across the road at your folks' house, and that's how we became mates.
And for reference for everyone else, it's like we live on acreage, so it's not exactly like there's neighbours or like there's not a lot of people in our street. And so, yeah, it's really weird because we're literally 10 meters away from each other, even though, there's probably about 5 properties in the space of like 5 kilometers.
Yeah. It's gold. All right. So obviously what women want is fun.
It's a big topic. It's a huge topic. I feel a lot of responsibility, especially after putting it out there to my community today. There were so many responses that did come back. Hopefully I can do the women out there justice with my responses because there's a lot.
Yeah, well, I've got no doubt, and that's obviously why we have you on. And the women we invite to come on are women that we respect, doing their own things out in the world. And obviously, you've got your.
I'm gonna go and get my headphones. Trin just texted me and said to put my headphones in. I'll be 2 seconds.
No worries. I'll just sit here and keep us chatting away. So, I mean, the reason why we have Sophie is we're always inviting, women to come on who we, respect out and about in the world, who we all think we could learn from, because obviously as...
Back.
Yes.
I should have known this. I'm like the IG Live queen.
That's what you're helping us with. All the back end tech stuff. I was just pumping you up.
Put your AirPods. Thanks. Put your headphones in.
Mine?
Yep.
Back in?
Yep. And then everyone just give us a little sound check.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Cool.
All right, we better now?
Yeah, that's heaps better.
Oh, yes. Nailed it. So I was just pumping you up, so I'll say, the reason why we have you on is obviously, you're doing epic work in your own right. Like you're growing an epic business, you're mothering 4 kids, and you're obviously a lot about empowering, inspiring women. And sort of what we're trying to do is obviously do something similar with males. And I think it's really important that it's not just about males learning from males, but obviously, every male has a women in their life, whether it's their partner or their mum or their sister or a close friend. And so I think it's really important that we all learn from each other in that. So it would be good for some of our guys who don't necessarily know you that well. Do you want to give us a quick little spiel of your sort of story of what you sort of moved through and to where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. So I have 4 kids. And when I was pregnant with my boys, I gained a lot of weight and decided to turn to health and nutrition. And I had gestational diabetes with my first son, and I put on 32 kilos with him, which was what really triggered me to actually start. Could we block him? to start in the health and fitness industry. And then after going down that path, I maybe about 5 or 6 years later realized that it wasn't just about what we eat and how we train. It was also about our mindset as well. And that was kind of where I started piecing the puzzle together. For me, it was very much, I have grown so much in the last 10 years as to where I was versus where I am now, and the direction that I'm kind of heading in. Because for me, it's all about getting the girls and helping them to see the power that they actually have to be able to change the next generation, the way that we parent our kids, the way that we speak to ourselves, the way that we are with our friendship circles, the way that we treat our men. There's so many different elements, I guess, now as to what I want to do within my own career and space.
Awesome. And that, I guess that's a perfect kind of segue into, you know, the then maybe versus the now. And I'd love to get a bit of an idea of, you know, putting yourself, you know, back in that sort of 10-year ago headspace of Soph, and obviously a lot of the women that you've worked with as well. And, you know, what have you picked up on or noticed as some of the maybe not so constructive or old ways of looking at, you know, what you look for in guys? 'Cause I know for a lot of us guys, we still have this idea that it's about, you know, the abs, you know, and, you know, having the money and all that kind of stuff, and that, you know, and it's still sort of hard to get our heads around. There's more to it than that, right? So what was maybe, you know, some of the old ways that you used to maybe look at it, and how that sort of changed?
Yeah. Well, I don't even think that it's that stigma in regards to the way that somebody looks, but it's also, like you said, so many men think that women are drawn to money or success or all these different things that we don't give a shit about. And it's and maybe 10, 15 years ago when I was younger, that was something that I would consider looking at, or I would go for a different type of person because of those type of attributes. However, in my friendship circles, it's so funny because we can have a male who typically, I guess, isn't a stereotypically good-looking, physical, attractive guy, and every single one of my friends would froth him based on the way he is, and his charisma, or perhaps his growth, or perhaps the way he allows you to feel. There's so many different things that I think that a woman would be attracted to, not necessarily abs, muscles, money, all of those type of things.
Yeah, and you I think you asked, didn't it? You sent a big questionnaire out to a lot of your girls, and it's also good reinforcement for, you know, for us to get our heads around it. And what were some of I had a look at some of the things there. Was it more around like emotional intelligence, communication, that kind of stuff seemed to be the themes that were coming through for what women look for in guys?
Yeah. There was not one person that said, I want a guy who has a full six-pack, or I want a guy who weighs 140 kilos. No one did anything to do with any sort of physical attribute. I think as well, it's worth mentioning that perhaps when I know myself, when I was younger, I would attract a guy who perhaps, you know, the treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen type motto. And that was what a lot of my friends went for as well. We went for the bad guys. I shouldn't say the bad guys. There's no such thing as a bad guy. We went for the guys that were emotionally unavailable, and they weren't as mature as what perhaps we were. And then we'd be like, well, what's wrong with us? And it was never about us. It was just two different levels.
Well, what's the saying? That was nice guys finish last. And there used to be this kind of idea in your head also as a guy that you had to be a bit of an arsehole sometimes to attract girls, and we're doing a lot of research also, and we've been asking, you know, lots of women in our networks, you know, what are things that I actually look for, and the things that are coming up are literally like, you know, becoming more awareness around your emotions, being able to talk about your emotions, being able to be vulnerable, you know, honesty and integrity, you know, importance around communication. And they're now the things that I don't remember ever really being taught as a bloke to be important at all, but they seem to be.
No. Well, also, I think the potential to be able to grow together. So if you're not growing together, you're growing apart. So there's a lot of relationships that I feel have one person leveling up or growing and growing and growing, and somebody else just wanting to be where they're currently at, which is fine. However, if you're wanting to stay in that relationship, it's a continuous growth pattern.
Right. It is like, what was I saying? It's like a dance. You're dancing and moving, moving together. And sort of with that, then obviously you've worked with thousands of women, and I'm obviously sure a lot of them have been or in relationships. And what are some of the themes or the most common things that you see are causing rifts in relationship or causing problems between? Are there some common themes potentially coming from our end maybe that you're seeing that are causing some problems?
I think there's so many different themes that we could kind of go down. However, one particular one that has been coming up quite often in my circles is the fact that a lot of men feel that going to a facilitator or a relationship coach or a life coach or whatever that looks like for you in your relationship is actually seen as a negative. However, right. I think that having that third person there helps you navigate your relationship to be even better and strengthen it even further. So for a lot of men out there, it could perhaps be doing that. And I don't necessarily think that it's going to be what you've maybe built it up in your head. It's not going to be a pick on him session or a throw dirt on him. It's actually a working together to get the best outcome for everybody. So there's definitely that element. There's probably also the communication piece. I think a lot of men are taught now, perhaps the generation that I'm in, so I'm 31, to not talk through their emotions, to disconnect from their emotions, and perhaps it's been so ingrained in them that boys don't cry, men don't have feelings, and that's what we're taught for so many boys. So I think for me, teaching my boys that that's not how I want to raise them, and that they're allowed to feel and to be in those moments and have every emotion, that it's totally fine, and just to sit with it is a huge one.
Yeah, it seems to be the big one seems to be around that emotional piece, i.e., saying that, going along to a session with someone else or expressing that you haven't got your shit together is weak and
I don't think
not
anyone's
okay.
got their shit together though.
That's even a thing.
Someone that has their shit together.
Right. And I don't know about you, but would you sort of almost find it more attractive to be with someone or talking to someone who has the confidence to say, yeah, I don't have my shit together. How could I work on things? Yeah.
It's just that awareness thing, isn't it? Because if they're not able to see it, everyone else can see it. So everyone's just going to be calling you out on it anyway. So yeah, I definitely think it's the awareness piece of being able to pick up when you don't have your shit together, because no one has their shit together, and being okay with not having your shit together.
I think that's the kicker. It's okay. Well, that's one of our things. It's okay not to have your shit together. And that's something that, yeah. And now you touched on then, which I think this could be a little, really interesting, little pathway to go down, is around bringing up boys, right? And so, I mean, I know even,
I feel so privileged
to be bringing up boys in this world.
Yeah. I think our boys are our next generation of men, and I'm so fucking excited because I'm so excited to watch them flourish and to be able to see how they navigate life.
Yeah. Well, how do you find that? Because I know that, me growing up, I had a great relationship with my family and all the rest, and still, growing up as a bloke, you spend a lot of time out and about, obviously with sports clubs and with your mates and doing other stuff, and there were some pretty destructive behaviors and masks that I took on and put on, and and war pretty solidly in terms of like, you know, there was aggression and the sort of the thing that you need to be, you know, kind of good with women to be cool and or good at sport and you know bit of fight kind of stuff going on. And I was quite, you know, there's a lot of ego stuff going on and you'd almost like, you know, that force of confidence. There's a lot of shit out there that, you know, even with a good sort of family and good upbringing and good role models, you can still as a guy pick up. How do you deal with that?
Well, yeah, it's the balance with the aggression piece, because I kind of feel like I don't think you should suppress your aggression, and I think that that's a trait that a lot of men don't have. And I think that we've kind of gone, and this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. However, I feel that we went so far away from feeling any sort of anger or don't hit, don't wrestle, don't do this, don't do that, that it's almost had the opposite effect, that men now don't feel any anger and don't get fired up. And it is that balancing act. So when the boys are angry, I say to them, yep, go for a run, go and feel that anger and like lean into it a bit, because otherwise I feel like it's just going to boil inside and they won't even know how to express it. That's
actually a really good point. Again, I'm having like, no, it's great because it's making me chuckle and think about the process that I also went through growing up, trying to navigate, you know, going from someone who had, you know, some pretty aggressive and a bad temper in a lot of ways, and then thinking, oh, right, maybe it's all about being, you know, the sensitive guy. And then I sort of almost went too far in the sensitive side of things and wouldn't actually naturally show or express, you know, feeling or aggression, whatever that.
Yeah. And it's okay to be pissed off, and it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to feel that. And I think that as a woman, it is attractive that your man's like, I'm angry, I'm pissed off. It annoyed me when you did this, instead of being a bit more, let's sit down and like rub our knees and pretend like it didn't happen type thing. I think you still have to feel that. I think it's navigating that in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. And how, and with your, no, I totally agree. I love it because I think it's also really important because, you know, there seem to be often two extremes here, whereas guys are sort of, there's either the too aggressive and that's not okay. And then I think also that then we go too far the opposite way. And it's nice to hear that, like, it's, you know, part of the whole emotional thing is to feel all the feelings, right?
All the feelings, yeah. And that's definitely something that with my sons, when I'm raising them, I want them to be able to express when they're angry. And I think that that's fine for them to be angry. However, I've also given them very clear guidelines that they respect women, and they respect women because I'm their mum, and they would never disrespect a woman based on the fact the way I've brought them up is not to disrespect anybody, let alone woman or male, like man, right?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it make any sense?
Yeah. Well, regardless of male, female, right, shouldn't really matter. But in that relationship, so and how old are they now?
Kai's 13, so he's just getting into that. He's got a little bit of testosterone. He's he's getting a little bit fiery. And I love navigating it. And I feel like it's really exciting because I'm able to steer him. But some of the biggest lesson I think I've learned lately in regards to that is that I can't ever take away his pain or take away his hurt. And so I don't ever want to protect them or cotton wool them to a point where they don't feel that pain, because I think that feeling the pain and going through struggles is kind of what builds our resilience and makes us who we are today. So I just want to be on the sidelines holding his hand so that he knows that, hey, I'm here if you need me, but go and live life with the morals and things that we've kind of raised you with.
And delving more into that then, what are those sort of, I'd like to sort of get some clarity around like characteristics and values and morals that you are, you know, instilling in them as a boy becoming a man, even though there's some argument that a lot of us boys don't become men till at least 50 or 60, but you know,
we've got plenty of time.
So, you know, what are some of those like morals or values that you're sort of trying to instill in him as he's growing, as he's growing up?
there's a few key ones for myself. And that's about being independent on your own without needing anyone else externally, is that I want my kids, all of them, not just the boys, the girls as well, to feel that they have an independence to them. I don't want them to feel like they're half a person if they never find somebody to marry or settle down with. I don't ever want them to feel like they need anything from external factors. So that's one huge thing for me. Second thing is be integrity, so true to your word, which as a woman is a big one. A lot of women say this to me. I think that men often feel, and I think that men often feel hard with this one because it's not about buying flowers every day. It's not about saying that you're going to go and do this extravagant piece every week. It's about saying that if you're going to pick up a coffee on the way home, that you pick it up. It's about saying that, like, it's the little things that all add up when you say you're going to do something to do it. Because after a while of things not following through, the word is just, it means nothing. And so for a lot of women, it's like, oh, well, he's not going to do it anyway, so I'll pick up that piece. And so I think that that's really, really important, is that the integrity is there, because otherwise, what's the point? Don't say you're going to do something and not do it. And then the next thing, there's a lot. I've got a whole list.
Oh, this is good. I'll let you run for the next 10 we've got.
And then I think backbone. I think that's really important, is that you know that regardless of who your man walks into a room with, he's going to have your back. And I think that that's something that is just like, that's the kicker. And so with my boys, if you've got an issue with someone, you go to their face, but you have your friend's back. And I think that for me, that's a really big integral one for a lot of my friends. They don't feel like it's a team. Next thing is probably being open and being able to communicate. With my boys, I always say to them, I want you to just be honest with me. If you ever feel like you have done something that perhaps was the wrong thing to do, or that you feel like I'm going to be mad at you, or it's something that I don't agree with, I would still prefer you to come to me and have this open conversation with me, and we'll navigate it together. Like, there's nothing you can't tell me that we can't navigate together.
Yep. Right. So the themes there around like sort of authenticity as well with that, right? So being honest if you're feeling something to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that the interesting one there, the first one that I found really interesting was the one around the confidence and independence.
Because well, so for me, this is more with my daughters.
Okay.
I never, and it's just a big thing for me, I never want my daughters to lose their independence as a woman, as a female, in every element of that. I think that we often have this financial thing where we go into a partnership and we lose every bit of ourselves. And if that partnership breaks down, or perhaps we don't grow together, or we leave the relationship, we're left at zero. And in a lot of cases, it's really hard to start again. And I think that society now has taught us that we go to school, go to uni, get married, have a job, buy a house, and that's the way that we live life. And for me, that's not what I ever want my kids to believe. I want my kids to do whatever they want, and I will support them 100% of the way, as long as they're enjoying what they're doing. So it's independence as a whole. Yeah.
No, I find that quite important. And it was interesting. No, I found it really interesting. There's a bit of fun going on down there.
They are only 4, so I'd hope I'm controlling them. I need to control them a little bit more.
Oh, little cheeks. But no, that was sort of an interesting. I find that really interesting around there's something really important about, I think it's both having a level of, confidence in your true self. So, because that fine line between, arrogance and overconfidence, but then confidence in who you really are. And I think, that and the sort of the allowing your true self, I suppose, to be seen. And that's one thing I know that personally, for a lot of guys that we talk to as well, there are some common threads there that a lot of them are actually scared to, allow their true authentic, whatever that might be, self to be seen, of fear that,
Yeah.
you know, they will be found less attractive by women and liked less by their mates, and feel like they have to put on this sort of the front and mask
It's so funny, isn't it? Because
to sort of
in
fit
most,
in, you know, yeah.
yeah, in most cases, like, I get that it's human nature to fit in, but in most cases, so many women would find that so much more appealing and attractive. That everybody is so unique and quirky, and everybody comes from different backgrounds. And I think that's what leads us to where we are today. And if it doesn't work out, or women don't find you attractive, it's not meant to be, because there's so many people out there and there's so many fish in the sea, that I feel like when we try to be something for somebody else, or we try to be what someone else wants us to be, it's not going to work, because eventually you're going to pick it up. But yeah, it is that juggle and that balance.
And I've heard you speak quite highly about, you know, lots of, you know, men and guys and friends in your life, whether it's, you know, dad and ex-partners and all the rest. And I'd love to, I know there's been quite a range, but what are some of the what are the things that you've seen in them that you really, you know, respect as guys in the world, and would love sort of see your you know, boys maybe sort of aspire to? What are those kind of characteristics and bits and pieces that you've sort of seen that you're like, yeah, that's...
So I'll go with my dad first, because I do put my dad very heavily on a pedestal, but also he's on my socials a lot. So a lot of my community would probably know who I'm talking about. So I think the key trait that I love with my dad is that he 100% has my back, in the fact I could ring him at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and say, hey dad, I've got to change a light bulb, and he would literally jump on a plane to be there. So it's not even, I would never make him do that, by the way. It's just the feeling of being held and having someone that you 100% know has your back. So that's probably the biggest one. It's also the balancing act of being, shardy o'clock. My dad has this thing at 4 o'clock where he has a glass of Chardonnay like every night. But,
how good.
Yeah, it's funny. But it's also, I think he has the ability to juggle being that really masculine male figure and being able to be, tells me he loves me, brings me every day. I know that I'm loved by him. He's got that gentle side. He's very nurturing, but also able to pick that masculine role up in a very manly way. What else? I like the fact that with Nathan, so my ex-husband, he is so soft and gentle with the girls, and such a beautiful father figure to be able to teach them and the boys how to be gentle, which is a really, really good trait in a person. And then I think I've had some relationships where it's been less emotionally available, and I think that has allowed me to navigate picking up for myself and being able to really go within myself to know what I want as a person and be able to fill my own cup up, which is helpful.
Right. Okay. And there seemed to be an interesting balance there, and a key thing in that, particularly with your dad, is, you know, having that ability to step into different energies, or, you know, what is kind of needed in the time. Right?
The polarity of a relationship is so integral, like so much. And I also feel like women don't know how to step out of that role. And especially, I know for myself, I'm a real boss figure for my work, and I have that real masculine energy for my work and my job and my business meetings and stuff like that, so that when I come home, I'd like to be able to be held a bit further, so that it does push me out of that.
Right. And that comes to that. Hey?
No?
Was that? Yeah. No, 100%. Well, and it's hard for us we've got to be able to jump and dance between that of, you know, you're at work all day as a guy, and you're in sort of boss mode, and obviously you're in boss mode, and then we come back and it's like, where do we jump into and move to? And I guess a big piece of that again is around that communication piece, right?
Yeah, and also a learning curve for myself as well is I went so went so far feminine that it was almost detrimental to myself, because I very much was like, I can do this. I'm a boss. I don't need anyone. I don't need you to do this. I don't need you to take this out. I don't need you to do anything. I've got my own back. When in actual fact, I needed that balance of being able to go between two, which is really hard to actually admit, because for so long I was so feminist that it was literally like, I can do this. I don't need you. I don't need no man. I do.
Yeah, and that's another thing, isn't it? Like, then as a guy, not to be, emasculated by a woman that has, some of that masculine energy, because it took me a long time to really get my head around the fact that, male doesn't equal masculine, and that, woman doesn't equal feminine. It took me years and years and years. I thought they were a direct, a direct synonym almost for each other, and to know that we actually both are makeups of both sides, and slightly different splits.
Yeah. Somebody just asked a question that I'd love to really just go back on.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. Yeah,
how do you let go of that boss mode? It's a second nature as a single mom, and I struggle to ever ask for help. I am so there with you 100%, because it is so hard. And I do think that the tendencies in regards to that is from being a single mom, because for me, myself, after having the boys, it wasn't until that point for me that it felt like that fight or flight. I went from being in a marriage to then going and raising two boys on my own, and stepping up and not having anyone to stand behind me or beside me. And in that particular relationship, that did break down, he doesn't have any custody or anything like that. So it is 100% on me. And so when I was put into the position, it wasn't just about being mum and dad, or being able to fill the role of masculine and feminine. It was literally about 100% masculine. If I don't work, I was working 2 jobs and studying at night. So for me, if it was like, if I didn't do it, who else was going to do it? And that's kind of how I was running for many, many years.
Right. And do you have any sort of
You're going to say meditation, aren't you?
No, well, any sort of technique? No, not meditation. But any techniques that you sort of use, maybe to sort of to jump in? I know personally that a great way to shift. I know that was a question around how do you jump out of masculine energy maybe during the day and step into a different way when you're coming home. Well, for me, it's often around getting out of our heads and back into our bodies. And because for a lot of us, particularly us guys, we spend a lot of time up in here, and where it's in thinking and power and action, and that's part of that suppression of feeling as well. And so a great technique, and this isn't just to to men, but also to women. The great way to transition from day mode maybe to family mode is to even do like real simple body scan technique, right? The whole, and that's what a lot of the philosophies are talking about, us getting out of our heads and back into our bodies, and allowing sort of more of that intuition to sort of come into play, and that can be something just so simple as doing some just slow breaths, belly breaths, because we spend most of our time breathing in our chest and like let the literally, right? You'd be amazed. And that's how we spend a lot of our time is breathing, and we're hustling, busting, we come back, and then blah blah, and a lot of the reason why often we'll just continue that program and react to things is because we are suppressing a lot of our feelings, not allowing ourselves to feel it, and we're all up in our heads. So that is a really, really, it's quite a simple one. It's just literally do some deep breaths, start getting the breath into the belly, and even the funny things around breathing, which I've was looking into, is a lot of us are actually we breathe into our chest partly as well because we're so used to wanting to make our abs and stomachs look tight. We don't actually breathe properly.
I'm probably so guilty of that.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting as well. The other thing that my coach got me to start doing is in the morning writing down my dreams. And I know that a lot of women on my community were like, oh my God, she's lost the plot. But that completely allowed me to tap into my subconscious or unconscious, what it was actually telling me. And there's been a lot that I've really discovered through what I'm actually dreaming into what I need throughout my day.
Right.
An interesting, really interesting one. Every time I'd fall asleep, I'd fall downstairs. And so my body would actually go like, and I'd fall downstairs every single night. And I did that for about 6 months. And it wasn't until my coach was like, do you want to maybe navigate what that means? And I was like, no, I'm good. Happy to fall down the stairs. Sweet. And it turns out that for me, that was about being able to relax and let go. There was no practices in my day to day where I relaxed. I didn't know how to relax. And so when I went in for acupuncture for the first time, I couldn't even lay there. He stuck needles in me, and I needed him to stay there and talk to me. That's how bad I didn't know how to relax. And so over time, he would extend my time doing acupuncture from like 5 minutes to half an hour because I didn't know how to switch off. And slowly I stopped falling down the stairs as I would fall asleep. And so when I started actually paying attention to my dreams, there's been some, hectic dreams that have really been very visual, that I could instantly pick up what they were.
Right. And a lot of that came from, you, from understand, is from you suppressing a lot of stuff and not allowing it to be felt and processed, right?
Well, it just like Kirsty's just said that she uses her phone to avoid relaxing. So the other thing that my coach had me doing was having a bath. And if you've ever met somebody that can't relax, a bath is not the best thing in the world. So I would hop in the bath and then I'd grab my phone and I'd end up just on my phone watching YouTube or listening to podcasts because I couldn't switch off to just do nothing. So yeah, it's been really hard to navigate pushing myself back out of that masculine role and finding a bit more balance for myself.
And obviously that goes for men and women,
as well.
And what we're talking about here is for everyone to use. And again,
100%.
Even that sort of like this sort of conversation isn't all like talking about getting into your body. It's not just for women. It's not feminine. It's something we only do. Probably men even more. So the moral of this whole story, this last 10 minutes of chat, is take some time to get out of the head and get back into the body and give yourself time to grow some awareness so you can help navigate when to jump in or out into sort of mask or feminine. I did not find a bath relaxing these days. All right, so we've got only got a few minutes left. We keep these things to a pretty tight ship.
I talk a lot. That's a big one though. So many women have said that baths, they just can't relax. It was interesting though as well, before I just jumped on this call, there was one final comment that came through in regards to what women want. And a lady was saying that she didn't know whether to feel at peace or worried that she was resonating so well with what everyone else was saying, that so many other women had the exact same issues that what she had had. And she was saying that her relationship kind of felt like it had moved to a living arrangement or a business partnership in their marriage. And that is something that is so common, of women emailing and messaging me that they're staying in a relationship for the sake of the kids, even though they're not happy. Neither of them are happy. And that's a huge one, I think, that is hard to navigate around as well, because when you throw kids into the mix, no one knows what they're doing is correct. Everyone's winging it. And so it's a really hard element to be able to navigate that. But I definitely think that there is help out there for everybody if that's something that you do want to end up navigating and growing together with.
And I guess sort of moving through to that one is then to, this might be difficult for you.
Throw it at me, go on.
Wrap up a little, because you had a lot of. I was going to say choose one thing, but if there was, if you were, advising, guys like here, blokes, if you want to, bring the best version of yourself forward, and whether that's in your relationship or, with your mum or, your sister or whatever that may be, if you could give us like just 3 things that you'd love us to work on, or it could be top 1 thing, like what would be one takeaway for a bloke? Like, all right, this is one thing because it's often we have this, if we just spray a whole thing of being a better bloke, it becomes too hard, right? What do you do? Or what,
Do better.
We use the funny question of what women want, because I think it was the old remember that Mel Gibson movie? Like that's where so the idea came from. I was like, imagine if we just knew what they were thinking. And that's what these chats are.
Guess what? You can just ask, and then you'll know what we're thinking. That's the great thing about it, especially with women, because it's like we love to talk. So yeah, I think communication's probably the biggest one. But I'm not saying this just to promote you guys, but I definitely think that if you perhaps, as a woman, have a man in your life that you're wanting to be able to help, I would get him to reach out either to the Momentum Boys or a male coach. And I know that being able to navigate that with another male energy is a lot better for you personally than him not doing anything at all. So I think that's number 1. Number 2, probably growth. I think we can never stop learning. And I love that saying and quote that when you stop learning, you're dead. So for me, it's just continuous growth. I don't think we can ever stop learning and navigating the best versions of ourselves. So as long as you're always doing that, and also take time to be on your own, like that's a big one. My coach always has this triangle, and you have you here, then your relationship, then you have your kids, and then you have work. Does that make sense?
Yep.
There's my triangle. And you are always number 1. And so I think that's the biggest take home, is that remember that as a male, you can't fill anyone else's cup up if your cup's not full. And so that's probably my biggest take home, is do you first and make sure that you are so content with everything in your life, because otherwise you're not going to be content in your relationship, and that's just going to push to them.
Yep. All right, and there's another couple of good ones here. Emotional intelligence, losing the ego. To process that, I tell you.
It is, isn't it?
Honest with yourself, trust your gut, honesty.
Trusting yourself is a massive one. I think that over time, we're taught to, I spoke about this on my stories yesterday or the day before, we often forget what it feels like to trust our gut, because with every element that we go through of navigating to become an adult, we're taught when to eat, which is such a strange one, because who decided that we have to have breakfast, lunch and dinner? Like we stopped deciding that we were hungry at 10 o'clock. We had to be hungry at 7 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock. And it's just, I think that trusting our intuition and trusting what we know is right will change the game. I know that for my body, I'm so in tune with how I feel, is that I often don't eat red meat. And when I've got my period, my body just craves iron. And so I will instinctually just have steak, even though I never eat it. However, if I listen to my body, it's what it's craving. So I think that once we actually know what it feels like to listen to our body, that's probably a great advice too.
Yep. And well, actually, that's intuitive eating is actually something we discussed on Thursday with the lads, is, and Dills is, she studied, nutrition, and you're a jet at it as well, and how the importance of for all of us is to be, again, that is out of the head and into the body, and start feeling what actually feels better for you. So, and what we've realized is that, and this, listening to you talk back and a lot of the answers you've given and the feedback that you've got from a lot of your followers, it all really sort of ties back to this, idea of awareness and social awareness, because you can't change anything without, all right, well, you only know what you know. And so, practicing things to increase your awareness is key. So we're talking, that's the body scan stuff, journaling, and so probably my advice to lads from hearing a lot of stuff we've got back here is, the first step is probably half this stuff you're like, oh, I'm fine, or I don't realize that. is to start increasing a level of that, and that's a bit of that ego moving, getting that out the way as well. You're giggling at.
I was giggling because during the week you pulled a big one from me that I was so unaware that I needed to work on. That was a big one for me, and I think that even just talking to people about experiences or perhaps beliefs, when you say it out loud, you don't realize how much you actually need to work on things. So I think that that's a big one as well for awareness. There was one just here though in regards to vulnerability. Being able to be vulnerable as well. No women that I know, I can't speak on behalf of everybody because that's a very bad path that I don't want to go down. Is vulnerability is so sexy because it allows you to be able to build that connection with someone, and no one's perfect. No one has their shit together, which is kind of how we started it. No one has their shit together. So being vulnerable with that person, saying, hey, when you do this, it makes me feel like this. Like, even if it's an uncomfortable conversation, is better than not having it.
Agreed. So awareness, communication, boom.
So what do women want? What did you take home from that?
So, well,
do
for
we have a
us,
summary?
there's a big, well, we can summarize it. So for me, there was to try to synthesize, a big kicker is communication. I think there's an overarching thing around emotional intelligence, which, that covers, communication, empathy, self-awareness, being able to regulate yourself. So, when to jump into the mask and the fem, and a big one around integrity and honesty. I think that is also huge, and that aligns with, doing what you'll say you'll do, but also integrity with your true self and having that confidence in, your true, whatever that might look like. So that's what I took out of it, Soph. Have I?
I'm glad you're listening.
Awesome.
And also just on the journaling as well, I saw that you guys have released a journaling trigger download. So that's pretty cool for men, because I know that it's probably not something, this is very, I'm making a huge judgment here. Would you say that a lot of men do journal at the moment or not?
I would argue that majority do not, and wouldn't know even when I learned, again, it was only a few years ago that I started doing it. And I remember someone saying, just journal. I'm like, well, what do I do? And I remember someone saying, someone just saying, just write, whatever comes to your mind. And so, with Momentum, what we've actually created it's a free download you can get either on our website, or if you click in through our page, you can download it, and it gives, different topics and triggers just to get you to start thinking about stuff you can write. And that is probably one of the best and most simplest ways to start that awareness. Because you said before, when you spoke it out, you're like, oh shit. This is what I was thinking. I didn't even realize this. And that's what we've created. So there's literally triggers, how you feel, what are you feeling today? Whereabouts are you feeling it? What is it? Blah, blah, even something so simple as, did you exercise today? How do you feel after exercise? Just to start practicing and writing it down and start writing. There's no right or wrong with journaling. And so that's what we've created, is something to help start to trigger the ability to sort of write and think more about what's going on internally. And the way to master yourself is to be aware of yourself. So that's what that's all about.
I don't know if you've heard of this before. However, it was writing down on your journal, right? And not ever reading it back. And you just burn the piece of paper, because we feel like there's that sense of vulnerability is gone because no one's ever going to read it. We don't even have to read it, but it gets it out of our head. Yeah.
No, you're right. That's another great way as well, because there's a bit of, again, putting yourself out there, whether it's writing or whatever, to the fear that what if someone reads it, or what if I have to read it again? You can literally
imagine
write
if
on
someone
fire.
read your diary. I'd love someone to read my diary. They'd be like, she is booked up.
Dear diary.
Today.
So there's a takeaway action is to start to journal.
Great. I love that. Good
Awesome.
Hopefully
we've definitely run over.
Sorry. Of course we did with me.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. You're a ledge.
Anytime at all. And if there's any girls that are watching, I would definitely advise sending your men over to the Momentum page. The boys have a private Facebook group and they do chats on Thursday nights.
Yeah,
Is that
we
right?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's free.
Yes, it is. It's all about just chatting.
Cool.
We just talk. You can listen. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Soph.
Anytime.
I'll catch you around. All right. Thanks for jumping on, guys. See ya.
Bye.